Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, as always. And we are looking at player props here on a Tuesday. It's Monday night here while we're getting ahead of these early lines and player props for you guys. A couple of good looks for you in this one. Also have best bets up with as well with four bets in there for you guys, some sides and totals and whatnot. So make sure to check that out, like and subscribe to the page, and follow along with us each and every weekday this season and into the postseason. Also want you to head to thelines.com and head to that NBA tab. Use the prop finder tool if you need it under there. You can see all the odds listed right in front of you. Make sure you're getting the best juice back on all these bets you are making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and kick it off with your first player prop for tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go Zion Williamson over 7.5 rebounds, which is plus 115. The books are asking you to take it. And I think it's because his reputation has been as a poor rebounder. But I think he's heard a lot of this noise and he has started to give it the full effort. And maybe more importantly, Willie Green is playing a lot of less conventional lineups where he's the point guard, where he's been asked to grab the rebound and go initiate some transition. And Valanciunas has not played 20 minutes in 6 straight games, which obviously opens up a lot more rebound chances for a guy like Zion, who's averaging 8.7 on 15 rebound chances in that span. The average distance of those rebounds is 6.5 feet, so a lot of long shots. And that does help him get out and go. Brooklyn attempts the 9th most 3-pointers per game, and they're going to struggle here, I think, offensively against the number 1 3-point defense in terms of the Pels. This is also their 3rd game in 4 nights after a 6-game road trip, so pretty exhausting spot for the Nets as they come home after playing the Spurs. They've allowed 50 rebounds in each of the last 2 there. They allowed the 8th most rebounds on the season, and they shoot 4th worst inside the arc. So they take a lot of threes. They don't shoot well on the interior. That equals rebounds. If you do want to tack on some points here, 32.5 points, rebounds, maybe you hedge with that. Zion could go for like 26 and 7. That's certainly a likely line for him. Brooklyn does, allow a lot going towards the rim for a guy of his profile, right? I mean, they allow the 5th most free throw attempts since the All-Star break, 5th fewest threes. So they are going to funnel stuff in there, not let Trey Murphy and company beat them, and Zion will relentlessly attack that defense.
Seems like it, right? Like, yeah, there's not going to be a one-on-one matchup for him. It seems like the points are still a pretty good bet for Zion in this matchup. So I think I definitely lean towards the points and rebounds, but I think overall it's a good find. The assists are something I was actually looking at fading for him, to be honest. And anybody that's playing Brooklyn right now will have a tough time getting those assists. There's like CJ isn't your true point guard that's going to like set up the offense and dime up. So it's a little bit less of a sort of 1-to-1 here where the assists for Zion are coming from a dude who is not playing like a normal point guard, even when he does play point Zion. So I think the rebounds are a pretty good look here for that plus money. And if you put him together with the points, I mean, he's been getting 32 points, right? So if you put that together with the rebounds for him to get 33 of those combined, like that's a pretty good number for us when you consider, like I said, he's gone over 30 like 4 games in a row. So my first play here, Nate, is a lean because since it is so early, we don't have player props up for everybody. But I'm going back to that Charlotte-Orlando game, and I'm going back to who's become a fan favorite here on the show, and that is Vasilije. I'm assuming that's how you say his first name, Micic. We all know how to say Micic. And Micic is a dude who has essentially taken over as that above the break dude running the offense, right? And also taking a good amount of shots as well. You targeted his points assists recently in a similar matchup. I can't remember if it was against Orlando. Might have been a slightly different team, like maybe Cleveland or somebody like that. But it was still a good look against a good defensive team for a guy who is going to continue to take most of his shots from above the break. The assists are something that I actually am down to fade. Like this is what we've looked at all season when we're picking props against Orlando. We're talking about a dude who can play well above the break, who is the ball handler in the pick and roll. That's the specific type of player that the Orlando Magic struggle against. And Micic is the dude now pretty much in the league. I mean, he's in the pick and roll as the ball handler. About 7 possessions a game right now. It's actually been up a little bit over the last few because we've seen the minutes rise and that sort of trust that they put in him as the point guard of this team now is there, right? He's running Charlotte overall runs the most pick and roll in the league. And with Micic, it could be a situation where you could get some points in this one if Trey Mann and Micic are going off, and Micic is sort of coming off those screens and either shooting or finding his guys. He has been really good doing that, scoring about 7 points per game on the 7.5 possessions he gets from the pick and roll as the ball handler, and Orlando bottom 5 in limiting their points per game. They're really good against the roll man. So there's no way I'm taking somebody who's going to be rolling off of him, like say Nick Richards, to be the guy who I would take in this one. I would actually fade them much more so. But in the last 9 games since Micic really took over as that starting point guard, he's up to 31.5 minutes a game, 15.5 points on nearly 12 field goal attempts per game. So if we've seen his prop rise and drop a little bit, actually with some pretty big spikes in terms of the lines that they're setting for him, because I think they're still trying to figure out what to do with Micic. So it was like a 10 or 11.5 point prop against the I think it was the Cavs like 5 games ago, and then he went well over that, and then they made it like 14.5, and then it went back down to like 10. So they've been fluctuating and averaging it out about 11.5, maybe 12 for his points prop. But if we get this at 11.5 as the opening, that's definitely a bet that I'm hitting right away. I would play this at 12.5 as well for Micic, who, like I said, getting the 15.5 a game this month and in this position with a good matchup for at least his style of play against the Magic, then I think the assists are going to be harder to come by and the points will be a little bit more likely.
Yeah, that's what happened on Friday. It was against Phoenix. I took with them on a back-to-back. Orlando's been busy as well. A lot of games in a row. And I mean, we do expect them to win this game. We expect them to maybe hold Charlotte below 100 points, but it hasn't mattered. Micic has led them in scoring, even when they're scoring like 96. Yeah, I mean, he's finding his stride here in the NBA, as is Victor Wembanyama, who, I'm taking another number 1 pick here with limited options on a 5-game slate and the props up. But I think despite liking the under here in San Antonio, I think Wemby does get 24 points. The odds are minus 120 on that. Not great. I guess you can tack on rebounds to get 35.5 points rebounds, but I just think he's going to get over this. I think maybe you just go 25 plus points and then you get the plus money. I mean, he had 26 in 27 minutes when he played Dallas before the All-Star break. That's 38% usage. The rest of the Spurs could not score. They will continue to run things through him. And, he's been unleashed since the All-Star break. He's at least playing, 32 plus minutes per game. His usage rate is climbing. He also faced Daniel Gafford when he was on Washington earlier this season and had 22 in 31 minutes on 34% usage. So clearly comfortable attacking Gafford. Derek Lively probably not going to bother him too much either. I mean, Dallas, that scheme wise, I mean, they're allowing the second most points to centers. They limit paint points, but they allow the 6th highest threes since the All-Star break, 6th most threes, that is at the 2nd highest percentage. Also allow the 6th most second chance points. So, I mean, they might be better in terms of traditional drivers, but Wemby is anything but traditional. He will take you out beyond the arc and figure out ways to get points in the mid-range if necessary. Like he's, again, figuring out how the NBA game works, and he has scored very consistently since the All-Star break, so I'll take him to get 25.
Yeah, it's a lot of points, but I mean, if they actually pass him the ball and we don't have to watch a bunch more plays where guys just look him off when he's in the post or whatever, then yeah, he should continue to get this. Like you said, against Dallas, both these teams, points will be available. So I'm actually just going to finish it off. It's a nice seamless transition to his opposition tomorrow, the guy he'll be guarding, right? His matchup is the word I'm looking for. Matchup with Daniel Gafford, who I'm going to take over 17.5 points and rebounds. I just tried this with Gafford at about 11.5 points, 10.5 points, and it should have hit. But then what happened was he got 2 quick fouls in the first quarter against Denver, and he's minutes. Then Derek Lively went on a spree right away. As soon as he got taken out of the game, Derek Lively went on a spree of scoring 8 straight points for the Dallas Maverick in that game. And so as long as Daniel Gafford doesn't get those fouls, then he should be around for a bit more. This San Antonio team is not a team that's really going to draw fouls very much at all. They're pretty much a jump shooting team outside of Wemby. It's either lob to Wemby shoot, or someone shoot from further away. That's how the Spurs have been playing all season. So I don't expect the fouls to take him out of the game. But basically the Spurs haven't stopped the center from doing what he wants to do this season at any point in time. Take whatever section of the season you want. They're either going to be first or second in terms of the most points allowed to the opposing center. Like Wemby can do his thing in terms of blocks and whatnot, but the minute that he's off the floor, they're just completely weak. You're talking about obviously Zach Collins being that guy. So that's why they allow the second most points per game to centers on the season, the second most points per game to the roll man in the pick and roll, and that is because they're also getting put into that pick and roll quite a bit, which we know Dallas is a top 10 team in terms of the frequency with which they're going to run pick and roll with Luka. And they're also allowing the third most rebounds per game on the season, the fifth most to centers as well. So Gafford, although he is still around like a 7.5 rebound prop and isn't like your stereotypical really good rebounding center, mostly because he's also going for blocks all the time on the defensive side of the ball. That is, and he will be guarding, Wemby. So like, I'm assuming that that's still going to mean that he's in for the minutes. I don't love the fact that he gets pulled away from the basket a little bit by Wemby, but if he is pulled away from the basket and the Spurs are shooting those threes, they're going to continue to have a really long average distance on their rebounds when they're on offense because of the fact that they're shooting threes, which equals long misses, right? You talked about that a little bit with Zion too. So I think it's a similar concept there. And like I said, I think we're still going to get a pretty good number here, even though a lot of centers are getting really bloated lines because the word is out that centers score a ton against the Spurs, but we're still getting a decent number here because I think he just went under. So I'm going to go back to the well because it's pretty much the same situation as what I faced last time. And I would argue Denver's obviously better on defense against centers than the Spurs, even though they're not that good against the roll man either.
Yeah, I mean, better from a team perspective for sure, and guys just they want to go at Wemby. I mean, guys who are quick and explosive leapers, like who might be able to get the ball behind him before he can block their shot, like Gafford. I mean, he's not gonna be scared to go in there, and I mean, he's gonna be force fed by Luka or Kyrie. If Luka happens to sit, or if they just are sharing usage. So I mean, he's put in a position where he was able to score 33 straight field goal attempts. So it's easy for him as long as he's getting the minutes to put the ball in the basket and potentially get over this. And if you like the under, there should be plenty of rebounds in this game.
Right. Yeah, and it's a low point total for him. So I'm not looking at like 34 like we got for Luka on that prop. But that is all the time we have for you in the play of props. Continue to follow along. We also have best bets up as always. So we'll be bringing you those as well each and every weekday. And until we see you next, happy betting.